Hello.
Hello.
Hi. We're back for episode number 2.
No flags this time, though.
No flags. It's not that we've moved away from it. It's just we'll go into something else and then we'll bring back.
Well, I thought this week we could cover LGBTQ plus History Month in the UK while it's still February.
Yeah, this was your idea, wasn't it, this
Yeah.
one? So mine was flags, keep it light and entertaining. Yours is going to be delving into the deep-rooted
Well, I thought we'd
histories.
go for history and a bit of relevance.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm not going to say no to it, but yeah, we'll go from the light, airy topic of flags.
Well, you wait any
into
longer, we're out of February, and then it's no longer... Well, it is still relevant, but it's no longer relevant for History Month.
It's always relevant.
It is always relevant, but we're
Gay
going
culture.
for history.
No, yeah. I mean, who doesn't love a theme? We've got to do it for the months. I mean, what we're going to do next month, that's the big question.
We'll worry about that next month. I'm not worried about that right now.
Fair enough. All right, so we can begin then, really, I guess. So, as you've just said, this year it's the 50th anniversary of the first Pride that took place in London. So, it's 1972 when it first happened.
Yeah, and only 2,000 people attended. But the last event in 2019, we're going to go with 2019 because, coronavirus. The last Pride event that was held in London in 2019 was attended by 1.5 million people.
So many.
It's a lot. We've never been to a London Pride.
No, we haven't. Our Brighton one, which I'd really want to go to.
No, we haven't been to Brighton either.
Hey,
Are we bad gays?
Speak for yourself. Yes.
Hey, we haven't been to Brighton. We've missed Brittany.
I know. We missed Brittany. We've missed all the greats. I suppose that's just it, though, really, because Manchester Pride is not really it's not a bad Pride to go to. It's fun. It lasts over like 4 days, a week technically, if you go on the fringe.
I think it's
shows.
2 weeks, isn't it, with all of the movies and stuff that they do?
Yeah, probably. So it lasts forever. Pride is always. You don't need to go to London to celebrate Pride.
One day.
One day, yeah, definitely. We'll do a live Pride. We'll go and we'll podcast from a booth. I think the last Pride that I remember going to, and this was years ago now, because I'm sure I was only like in my 20s.
The last Pride that I remember both of us going to, and I can't remember the year, which is really bad, but I know that Khalees performed on main stage at Manchester.
Yeah,
and it was absolutely chocker.
Jam-packed.
I've never seen so many people in such confined space before.
God, I remember when it was Sophie Ellis-Bextor. And
I remember when it was Sophie Ellis-Bextor. We were right near the front for that.
Yeah, but it was still busy, though.
It was still busy, but it was nothing in comparison to... Was it a couple of years later that Khalees performed?
I think so.
And it was mental. We couldn't even get anywhere near the grounds where the main stage was on.
No, we was right at the back.
We weren't even at the back. We were down some side street.
Yeah.
I don't even know which side street we were on, but we were down a side street and it was packed and nobody couldn't move. I could hear her, couldn't see her for shit.
No, I remember.
Not like Sophie. We were close for Sophie.
Yeah, I remember. But I suppose that, going back that long ago, I remember how busy it was even then. Do you know what I mean? I remember that there were still so many people, hundreds, thousands. The parades were always so busy as well. I guess as time's gone on, it's just gotten busier. It's just become more and more.
It has
of an
got busier.
attraction.
I think that it is more of an attraction, yeah, and I think that the bigger artists that they have performing on the main stage results in a hell of a lot more people going.
Do you think that's a bad thing, though? Like, do you think that pulling in these huge artists, it's bound to get recognition?
Well, I literally read to you the other day that Manchester Pride this year is looking at pulling its main stage, and it's just going to go back to its original roots where there's no performers. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but I do think that if you're paying for your tickets and your wristbands, whether it's for the weekend or just for the day, all that money is clearly going to these celebrities that are going to be performing on main stage, and then the question is how much of that money is actually being pumped back into the community if you've then got the likes of Ariana Grande or Charlie XCX on the stage. You can't tell me that there's still the same amount of money going into the community as it is to going towards the performances.
Well, I do think it does. I don't think that that's something that they ever stopped doing. I think it has to, otherwise people would have not gone to it.
I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm not saying that it doesn't go back to the community, but I would. We can't get our hands on these statistics, but I bet you that there is less money now going into the community than there was years and years ago before they started getting bigger celebrities.
I'm going to have to disagree, because I think that back in the day, before they had all these huge, like Britney Spears, like Ariana Grande, before they had these huge megastars that came to this event, it was smaller. Not a lot of people went to it. As more people have decided to go to it, that's when more money's come in. So I wouldn't say less money, but at the same time, I can't imagine it's much more money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of give and take. I don't. Again, without those sorts of statistics, I have absolutely no idea. I just feel like, personally for me, I'm not one for being in giant crowds. I hate it. No, I hate it. I go to live gigs and I still hate being in standing. I'll do it because my mates love being in standing, but
you're the person at a single party who's by themselves and like, this is so great.
Yeah,
I love this. Yeah,
rocking it around in the corner. Yeah, yeah. That's me. So I'm not one for mass amounts of crowds.
No, but it doesn't always have to be about a massive amount of crowds in order to gain attraction.
I know. I just feel like it's taken away from what it originally was supposed to be about. It stopped being about helping the community and supporting the community, supporting trans community and the youth of LGBT kids and families and things like that. And it's gone more into a let's have a 4-day bender. And not remember why we're actually here. Yeah,
it's a little bit like having a piss up in a park, isn't it?
It's really? Literally, and you can do that any day of the week. And I feel like it's turned itself into a festival, and that's not. It was never what it was about. It should be about people, helping inside the community and going to this event for connect reasons.
Do you think this is making us sound old here? Do you think we're like, I remember when Pride was about us sitting around and crying?
No, because we still had Sophie Ellis-Bextor. No, that's not what I mean. I just mean that I think that the bigger the artists that you have on main stage and the more festival-like you turn it into, the less it's about... I mean, it's still about the community coming together, don't get me wrong, but it's then less of helping these people. And what if you're a little baby gay that's never been to a Pride before and was hoping that maybe they could find people that they connect with, or like a community, like a little community centres or whatever it might be where they could fit in, and instead they turn up and it's a 4-day bender and everybody's plastered.
So you're basically saying that you would see it more along the lines of that you want it to be a community gathering, a place of sort of like sanctuary, if you will,
where they can all come and they hang out and you meet people that work for the community, and if you need people to help you in any direction, whether you need guidance in trans or drag queens or being lesbian, being gay, being non-binary, that you can find your own little community inside of Manchester Pride. I'm not saying don't do the live music and stuff. By all means do the live music, but I don't believe it should be what it is now.
It shouldn't be as... I was about to say it shouldn't be as commercialised, but I know that that's going to incite a bit of drama. What I mean is we should be trying to pull our focus more on the advertisement of individual groups, of like understanding gay men, understanding lesbians, pushing trans rights to the forefront,
and
all these sorts
black
of
gay
things.
rights and black trans gay rights.
Yes, all these sorts of things should be put to the forefront rather than it being like, and the headlining performance
it's like
is Britney.
An afterthought. It's so much like an afterthought, and that, I mean, I'm 34 now, so I don't particularly need all of that community, and I have my friends and people that I can talk to. But for little baby gays out there that are new to all this and that don't know where they fit in,
even older people
older people that are only just discovering their identity, to go to an event like Manchester Pride where you feel safe and secure, you should then be able to find people that you're going to connect with and going to gel with and find your place, I guess, instead of I'm going to go back to it, 4-day bender.
I mean, it'd be interesting to know what everybody else at home thinks about this. So obviously, you're listening along to the podcast, just drop a comment and let us know, do you think it's a good thing that they've decided to remove, the huge, giant parade, not the giant parade.
The parade's staying.
The parade staying.
The parade is staying. They're removing the concert.
They're removing the concert. There we go. Yeah. This huge giant concert. Or do you think it should stay? Do you think that that's something that benefits the entire community? Let us know. Let us know in the comments.
I think we should move away from Pride though, because that's not history. That's current.
It's current, but it's also history. Pride came from history.
Yeah. So. It did come from history. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, there's this huge sort of like storyline. I think the problem with the story of how Pride began is because it's so segmented by who saw what and when. The actual story has kind of been lost somewhere along the line.
It has, and I do think that we need to delve into that story. I'm not quite sure we'll get there in today's podcast, but you have to look at people that paved the way for that to happen, like Marsha.
Yeah, Marsha P. Johnson. There is still that rumor that goes around where it's like she threw the first brick. No, she didn't. She wasn't there for the first riot, but she did resist arrest and she did fight back. She did, stick up for the rights of trans, gays, lesbians, all of those categories of the time. She was present for. She might not have been the one who incited it, but she certainly carried it through. And I think that's where the stories tend to get blended, don't they, really?
They do get blended. I mean, if anybody wants to know anything more about Marsha P. Johnson, there's a very good Netflix documentary.
Oh, the one on, yeah.
But just to briefly touch upon how the dates where Pride ended up going. So the Stonewall riot in New York was in 1969, which led to a bunch of protests not long after that, which were led by Marsha in New York.
Yeah.
And the protest went on for I think it was a good couple of days that she was protesting.
Yeah, from what I've seen.
With a bunch of other people from Stonewall and from obviously the New York area, demanding rights for black drag queens and black trans and gay people, anybody on the spectrum inside LGBTQ plus. Marsha was there demanding the rights that we started to get from that.
Might we add, was doing so during a period when lesbians and gays had the LGB alliance, and they didn't recognize anyone who was
transgender,
and they certainly didn't like anyone who was a drag queen because it mocked status. So they still did this during this period where even we as their own kind were turning against them. Really, we're saying you're nothing to do with us, but they were still sticking up for the rights.
Do you know what? It's just wrong, really, isn't it? Because then the person that paves the way for all this to start happening was a black drag queen.
Tell me about it. And what's even more annoying is it still happens now.
It still happens now, yeah.
I mean, that is a story for another day, and that's got to be one of our controversial ones.
Absolutely, it makes no sense. I mean, if you look back on LGBTQ plus history, if you don't know who Marsha is, then one, you live under a rock.
Yeah.
Two, go fucking educate yourself.
Well, yeah.
And stop being, people need to, racism is ridiculous. You have your rights because of a black drag queen.
And just don't be a dick about it. At the end of the day, you might be a gay man, but that doesn't mean shit in comparison to the fact that people stick up for your rights, whether you want them to or not. But again, we'll get too much into that. I think that's something that I really want to cover.
We're just going to get carried away.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, I'll be stood here on this microphone.
We'll just be
this will be
defending
the hill I die on, yeah.
For the next 3 weeks, we're not going to leave these microphones because of how much we can talk about.
Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah.
Anyway.
It transferred, though, into the UK later than it did
in America. Yeah. So that was obviously what was happening in America. But from that, and let's be fair, Marsha paved the way. We know she did. It's a fact. So, yeah. So that was in 1969, and a month after they'd done all the protesting, they managed to get their first gay march, which was again, it was led by Marsha. She's the reason they got it. They fought for it and they won. But then we here in the UK, The first LGBT gathering was in Hyde Park in London, and that didn't happen until 1971.
I know, years later.
Not too many years later, but we know that people the only reason that happened has to have come from Stonewall. It has to have been.
More than likely, like most things in the UK, unfortunately. Sorry to everyone who is British who's listening.
We are
to this
British,
now.
so it's okay.
Well, yeah, but, sorry to anyone. We tend to steal a lot of things that happen in other countries. Riots,
oh, yeah, 100%.
marches.
I don't disagree with you, but that's what I'm saying to you. The only reason that this gathering happened, I mean, it was going to happen anyway, I guess, but the fact that Marsha had paved the way in New York, it was then clearly going to escalate down.
Yeah, trickle down into
other countries.
Escalate up.
Trickle down.
Trickle
down into other countries.
It was going to, and I suppose good thing that it did as well. It's a weird thing with the States and with the UK because, in the US it started first. It was more prominent. It was this huge thing. And then in the UK, we obviously started it pretty much with the last one. And yet, here in the UK, we kind of became a little bit more progressive quicker than it did in the US. I mean, not that
I don't know. I don't completely agree with that. I think
gay marriage happened in the UK before it did the US.
No, it didn't.
It did, didn't it?
Not in some states, no.
Well, no, some states had it first, but
some
mean
states
in
had
general.
it before the UK had it, and then other states in America came after.
Oh, believe me,
and then
I'm not
Russia
saying...
just don't,
Well, that's Russia. No, that's like saying this apple is nothing like this stone. It's a completely different thing. No, I mean, don't get me wrong, we are not the most progressive country in the world. Spain is considered a far better place to be gay than it is in the UK.
New Zealand
as well, yeah. Well, that's what having a female prime minister does for you.
Potentially. I've got some good facts on New Zealand.
Yeah, we'll do one with we'll do one with Jacinda Ardern. She's coming on the podcast. No, she's not now.
I wish.
Can you imagine?
I wish.
Jacinda, if you're listening.
Woman is a titan.
No, but we'll do that at a later date. But yeah, I'm not saying that the UK is the most progressive. Of course it isn't. There is still so many problems that we have in this country. But I would say that we kind of came to the understanding of decriminalising a lot of these things far quicker than America did, for sure.
We did, but it still doesn't translate because shit happens.
That's like any story.
Just because it's decriminalised doesn't mean that it doesn't happen.
No, of course not. It still happens in today's world. We still, abuse is still real. Shit still goes down. The biggest question mark surrounding so many things that you hear now is pride still relevant? Yes,
100%.
Of course it's still relevant. And it's still relevant because until there is no more gay bashing, until there is no more people offended by the fact that there are gay, lesbian, transgender people in this world, pride will always be necessary because it's a way of saying, not to be too corny, but we are here, we are queer, get over it.
Get fucking used to it.
Get fucking used to it, yeah. It is just the way it is. It is needed for that. Do I hope there is a day where pride is no longer needed? Yeah. Because then it means that it doesn't matter who you are. You are just accepted.
It means that you no longer are being attacked or verbally abused for your gender identity or your sexual orientation.
Yeah, my hope is that eventually pride shuts down and no one goes to it anymore because it's not needed. That's my hope. And
I don't think that's ever going to happen in our lifetime.
Certainly not our lifetime, no. Definitely not.
I definitely think it's improved. In some aspects, it's improved. And then in others, it just seems to be taking a huge step back.
Well, it depends on what it is that you think, though. So, for example, when we was in school, those many years ago, it was not okay for you to come out at all. If you ever did that, you knew you was getting bullied, possibly beaten up. Who knows what else? It is a different world now, though, because kids can do this.
Well, I have a statistical fact for you.
Oh, okay, then go on then.
I have a statistical
fun
fact.
Facts with Kaylee.
Fun fact. I don't know if it's a fun fact. It's probably not even a fun fact. So, the fact that I have is 48% of pupils in the UK have no positive messaging about being queer at school. The schools that do cover LGBTQ things
Topics.
Things.
Things and stuff.
Stuff and things. I've had a reduced number of students experiencing suicidal thoughts.
So basically, the more that this is discussed, the more that this topic is brought to the forefront, the less...
It is, but do you not still think that's a large percentage? 48% of pupils have no positive messaging of being queer.
Well, yeah, of course, that's a large percent.
I mean, it's not... obviously, it was probably about 100%
when we were in school, yeah. Yeah, listen, 16 years has decreased it by 50% at least. So these are
It is a step
steps
in the right direction, and the fact that the kids that are being taught it do not experience or are not experiencing less suicidal thoughts or thoughts of self-harm is really, really good.
Yeah.
It's just not enough, is it?
It's not enough. And this is why, like I said, pride is still needed. It is still needed because there is still issues. It is still not widely accepted and won't be for a long time. And whilst I can sit here and say, I mean, I don't go to school, so what would I know? But whilst I can sit here and say, it's better in school now for kids, it probably still isn't right. It probably still isn't safe.
Again, I don't know, because neither one of us has children. I do think it's something that, again, in certain schools it is talked about and it is discussed, which is good. I do know that when Margaret Thatcher's rule, Section 28, was revoked, which wasn't until early 2000s, it meant that schools could actually have more say in the books and stuff that they had.
So let's just quickly explain. Section 28 was brought in by Margaret Thatcher.
Well, it was Margaret Thatcher's government.
Yeah, her government, but still technically brought in by her. She was the Prime Minister. And it was brought in 1988. Oh, 1988. And it ran up until the year 2000. And then in Scotland, it was 2003.
No. It ran until the year 2000 in Scotland, and it ran until the year 2003 in England and Wales.
Oh, I need to teach you how to make notes. That reads backwards.
You read backwards.
No, I don't. And basically what it did was it prohibited the promotion of homosexuality in schools, effectively, or not just schools, but
it was anywhere schools.
Really, you couldn't really.
You weren't allowed to talk about it, and if you asked your teacher about what somebody that was queer was or something like that, they weren't allowed to answer the question.
Yeah, let me make it clear, it was not legal at this point. It had been decriminalised a while back, but effectively it is a little bit like the Army's rule of don't ask, don't tell.
Well, it was believed that if these things were put into schools, that then it would corrupt the mind of a child.
Some people still believe that now.
Some people do believe that now, but it was more prominent.
Well, it was a Conservative government, wasn't it? And it was one of those things where back in those days, still not much was known about it. I say, yeah, still not much was known about it. They kind of thought, they thought HIV was some sort of like cancer. They thought that, Well,
it wasn't that. It wasn't. They thought it was some sort of cancer or something like that. But then it was named a gay disease, and it's just not a gay disease. People.
Which, speaking of history, just to sort of interject into this comment, have you seen the latest statistics where it for the first time since
it is
recording,
more prominent in straight men.
People. Yeah. Straight men and straight women.
Straight men and straight women.
Than it is in the gays.
Than it is in the gay community.
So anyway, yeah, can we just we'll just cut right the way back again and talk about schools. Sorry, I got on that.
You just got off topic.
Yeah,
there
sorry, that was my fault. So I suppose in schools, like what we say, we don't really know. We don't have kids. But I would assume it is easier. You see a lot more...
There's a lot more queer parents.
There's a lot more queer parents. There's a lot more queer media. There's a lot more in the culture now. TV shows are not really a TV show unless you have at least one gay, one lesbian, and one, who does not identify. Yeah, there has to be that sort of threshold minimum now. I suppose it does make it feel a bit more like people can come out, can be who they are. And I suppose our generation's children, if, they would be in their wee little kids now, for our generation, the millennials, it's more easy to understand if your child does come out as gay, straight, or transgender, or non-binary, or any of these things, because we were the first generation to try and bring this into an equal perspective. Do you see what I mean?
Well, I wouldn't say that it was technically our generation that tried to bring it into an equal perspective. I feel like every generation has contributed towards equal rights.
Yes, but what I would probably say is to sort of clarify what I mean to not make it sound like it's
Yeah, you
we
literally
did
made
everything.
It was all the millennials.
Sorry, no.
And millennials get enough hate. We don't need any more.
Sorry, what I don't mean like I'm sat here going, I have done so much work. No, what I mean is that because millennials are so self-involved, we have basically pushed our wants and our needs to the forefront far more than the generation below us did, because that was more of a keep calm and carry on. We have a war to deal with. We have, the fact that things are on the increase. We're running out of blah, blah, blah. It was a different world then. We are the first generation to not really have that many huge life-threatening problems. So instead, we kind of push the narrative more onto the freedom of self, the freedom of expression.
Potentially.
So I would say that, I'm not saying we did more. That disqualifies everybody who came before me. But what I'm saying is our generation is the one which was entitled enough to demand it. Privileged enough, I suppose, to demand it. Whereas the generation before us fought for just the basics.
Yeah,
to just be left alone, to just live their lives as they wish to be lived. Whereas we're like, no, we also want to vote, and I also, do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't need 2 changing rooms. That's
and
too
I
much like hard
demand
work.
more drag queens on TV.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what our generation is. We were far more whinier, which got us somewhere. So it makes sense for me to think that our generation, if they have kids, and those kids grow up to be gender different, to be gender orientated, whatever, that they would be more accepting than what the older ones were. Do you see what I mean? It kind of, the next generation breeds more acceptance.
Well, you would hope so, but and I think the next generation and every generation becomes slightly more accepting than the generation before it.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I hope, anyway. That's what I keep my fingers crossed for.
Again, probably won't be alive to see it, but...
Yeah, we won't get there, unfortunately.
I do have to say, though, I am slightly jealous of these kids now, because they have got so much more that they can see. Do you remember, I think Queer as Folk...
Oh, yeah.
Would probably have been the first thing that we saw.
Oh, my God, right. So I had a TV in my bedroom at the time, and I can't remember how old I was, but I was only young. And I remember I used to have to turn the volume all the way down, really low, so my dad didn't know that I was up late watching TV. And it was on Channel 4, and I remember watching it on Channel 4. And I could have only been young, and I just remember not wanting to get caught, but it was something that I wanted to watch because it actually had gay people. I didn't
watch Queer as Folk until I was a lot older.
Did you not?
No.
Oh, I remember.
No.
But it was the same thing that I used to watch Sex and the City as well. So I knew from a very young age.
No, I think the first time I saw lesbians on TV was The L Word. Oh, no.
No.
I take that back. It wasn't. It was Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, Buffy.
Willow and Tara.
Yeah, Willow and Tara.
And then Willow and Kennedy.
And the Spice Girls. Okay, fine. Lesbian energy, the Spice Girls.
Not all of them.
No, but at least 4. Potentially. That's all. Listen, that's all I'm saying.
Depends how many rumours you've read.
I mean, listen, in history, at least now, time is different on TV shows.
But this is what I'm saying. Buffy was so heavily censored that the whole thing around Willow and Tara was done through magic. God forbid that they were having sex.
I know.
Like that. It was all done through
Instead, it was the erotic sexualization of magic.
Magic, and it's guys, we know they're doing it.
We know.
Fine.
They've had sex. It's fine.
I don't know how old I was when Buffy came out.
Young.
But I think when the L Word came out, I was definitely a teenager.
Yeah, I was as well.
And I remember in the UK it wasn't on until midnight.
No, well, of course not. It had women engaging.
It had women engaging. Yeah, it did.
How salacious.
It was not until midnight. And then I don't really remember anything until more recently.
No. But at the same time, though, if we sort of take that on, there has been more than just, we look back at our history, we look back when we were kids and go, oh, there was Buffy and there was Queer as Folk. That's about it. Whereas now,
they've got this is what I'm saying to you, I am slightly jealous of these kids because there's so much, there's still not enough, but there is more representation now than there ever used to be when we were children.
Which has to help them in the long run. They
have to see
that and then believe that they can be who they are.
I fully believe that it does. I still don't believe it's enough.
No.
It's funny to me when I watch a TV show. I can't pick one off the top of my head right now. But you watch a TV show and there's literally, it's all like straight white people, and I'm like, there is nobody in this world that has a circle of friends that are all straight and white. No. How is that humanly possible? How have you gone through life?
What sort of Stepford wife life do you lead? Yeah.
I just don't understand how that's possible, which still says to me that if I can turn on a TV show and they're all white and they're all straight, it's the writers need their heads checking, because it's just not possible.
Everybody I knows at least one gay person, and that's me. So, you know what I mean? That's a lot of people. Same with you. You know, everyone that you know knows at least one lesbian, and that's you. So there is these.
But this is what I'm saying. There has to be somebody that is of a minority in a friend group somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't mean picking out the token black person by, please don't do that, because that's highly wrong.
Yeah.
But or a token gay person that you kill within the first 3 episodes of the TV show.
Which thankfully they don't do anymore. But
some
did,
still do.
Do you know
some
what? It just raised the question, why did they always kill the lesbian woman off first? I still don't understand.
I don't know, but at least they were killing the lesbian women off. The gay men just didn't exist.
Yeah, there was no gay men. It was just
none.
lesbian women.
It was always
lesbian women brought in the straight men. That's what it was.
I didn't start apart from Queer as Folk, and maybe they would have touched upon it slightly in the L Word, but they were not a main character up until recently. Again, maybe over the last 5-6 years, maybe there was no gay men on TV that I can recall that were in a relationship.
No.
Maybe Hollyoaks.
Maybe, but
Steve
then, yeah. And there was one in Coronation Street as well, I believe. I can't remember which one he was.
Yeah, there was, but again, I don't really count soaps because it's not.
Well, it was always a bit part, isn't it? It's kind of like one episode in 100 where they have to throw in the token character in order to, appeal to the masses. But
it is. I think the only one as well, to be fair, that I've seen through YouTube and other things that got it right would be Emmerdale.
I never watched Emmerdale.
So anybody that hasn't watched Emmerdale, so it was between two women, Charity and Vanessa, and that spanned literally.
Sorry.
Charity Dingle.
Sorry to anyone named Charity. Sorry, I did not mean to.
And that spanned maybe 3 years on a soap. That's a pretty long time.
Yeah, that's a lifetime for a lesbian. 3 years, my God.
It spanned about 3 years, I think, on Emmerdale from what I've seen.
Okay, so let's move on. So we've got a few more things that we want to discuss, though. And I think one of them, we could go back into the history a little bit more than what we have done. And we could talk about UK more than US, because I think we're a little bit more qualified to talk on UK politics than we are US politics.
Agreed.
So
we'll go back to 1885.
1885.
Going back to 1885.
It wasn't a good year.
It wasn't a good year, but it was one of the most interesting facts that I found.
Yes. Because what you discovered was that gross indecency between two men was made illegal in 1885. And then in 1921, there was a similar law that was discussed for women.
Yeah. This is the bit that made me laugh. So yeah, in 1921, a similar law was discussed for women, but it didn't get very far in British government because the parties believed that they believed that women were far too impressionable, and that if the women of the UK heard about women having sex with other women, that they might go and try it.
I mean, they wouldn't be wrong.
I mean, maybe they should have done. I'm never going to disagree with it, but what I find hilarious is clearly, I mean, again, without delving really, really deep, clearly this government was a predominantly, if not all, male government.
But yes, it would have been, yeah.
And they were clearly terrified that their wives would become lesbians if they found out that women could have sex with other women.
We can't have women thinking.
Yeah. How dare they?
It's I suppose it's a thing of the time, really. You kind of encapsulated it a little bit there. It was obvious it was fear.
It was
so
100%
obvious.
ran off fear. It's clear the fear there was that if women found out they clearly already knew about men having sex with other men. That's why they made it so illegal. But they clearly thought that in 1885 that women were not having sex with each other. So they thought that if they didn't speak about it and didn't tell anybody, that women wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
Because of our young, impressionable minds.
Yes, exactly.
And just thinking,
your
that
naivety.
seems like a good idea. And the thing is, there was probably already women doing it.
Yeah, there was. We know there was.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
There's been stories and all sorts of stuff that's gone around about lesbians. The thing about all of that is, suppose it was, it's wrong 100% morally with how it was all done. And I think it's a very different world now to what it was then. Then it was fear, then it was immoral. And this was of a time when religion kind of ruled.
Oh, of course,
your
yeah.
politics,
I fully
your
I fully understand that. Religion definitely, it was, and people very much followed the weird words of the Bible, if they were Christian. And well, come on, none of it actually makes any sense. It's all slightly backwards. None of it reads right. If you read it properly, it doesn't even read correctly.
It's very draconian, yeah.
So no, it doesn't make sense. But that is the world that they were living in. Unfortunately, that it was. They didn't want it to happen. They thought it was wrong.
I suppose that we're kind of safe from it all now, though, to be honest with you, in the sense that, it's never really going to be outlawed in the UK again. Too much has happened. Too much has been done. You can't just suddenly... I think too many people got worried sometimes whenever you hear, like, a Conservative government is taking over the UK, and what questions that arises from that. Are they going to outlaw being gay, being lesbian, being trans? Are they going to turn the tides against you?
I don't think that they can, because I think there'd be too much of a riot.
I agree. But it is always that weird thing, because sometimes you do feel like it's a little bit 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. It is a very different world to what it was in 1888.
Oh,
now we have toilets that flush.
They wouldn't have, I don't think in 1888 they would have taken to the streets and fought for what they believed in. But they just wouldn't have done. They would not have imagined it, because... And especially there, like, we're saying that they never made it illegal for women to have sex with other women because women were too impressionable. That speaks for itself, doesn't it, really?
It does, yeah.
Like, now it's completely different. If a woman was told she couldn't have sex with another woman, it's going to be an issue.
Just go do it anyway,
yeah? Go do it anyway. I'm not going to stop her.
I think the thing about all of this is, though, can old laws be brought back? We've seen the immense difficulty in certain laws just being outruled altogether. There is currently
in this country, yes.
Well, yeah, because there is the current.
To be fair, and in other countries, all of the abortion rights and things in America.
Again, America is a very different story,
it is,
and I think that's best left to its own devices. It is
best left to its own devices, but when we live in the UK, and I do feel safer to some degree living in this country. But when you watch American politics sometimes, and the fact that they can overturn laws so fucking easily.
Well, they can do in this country. The interesting thing about UK politics is that nothing really actually is kind of that cemented. It's all done on base of agreement. So it's kind of like, what is UK law? And it's kind of a bit like, well, how long's a piece of string? Because it doesn't always necessarily become ironclad. It's this whole thing of trying to overturn the I can't always remember what the actual act is, but is it the conversion?
The conversion was it for the conversion camps?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was for
Conversion
conversion therapy, because we don't have camps in the UK. We're not that sinister.
My apologies.
You're going to conversion camp where? London? No, we don't have anything like that. But we do have medical practitioners that still, do conversion therapy. Yeah, they still sort of specialize within that area. And then obviously there is such a debate about this in Parliament about whether or not it needs to go. Of course it needs to go.
Well, of course it needs to go. It's diabolical.
And it's that which then puts everyone on edge, because it's that sort of ruling whereby, slow to overturn draconian ruling could at some point result in the upturn of old rules.
Well, this is just it, though, isn't it? There was an interesting fact that I actually found, and it's not about the changing of rules or anything like that, but a fact that I found was it was only from 2017, So it's not even that long ago. And this is what makes you worry that that they would overturn rules and send it back 20 years or whatever. So it was from 2017, and it was basically a trans female from the UK had transitioned here in the UK and was being verbally and physically abused in our country to the point where she didn't feel safe anymore. And she petitioned the New Zealand government to seek asylum in New Zealand from the UK in fear of her life as a trans female.
Wow.
And she won, and New Zealand granted her asylum on the basis that she would be safer in that country than she would be in our own country in 2017. I also found out that since then, over 40 asylum seekers from the UK have moved to New Zealand and been granted access to New Zealand to live there based off of their sexual and gender orientation.
It's an interesting one because whilst I would love to turn around and be innocent and say those figures shock me, they genuinely don't.
They don't particularly shock me. I think what shocked me more is that they didn't even feel safe in the UK, which you then said earlier was a more progressive country.
It is in comparison to other places.
I do agree with you to a certain extent, but this poor woman, it was only in 2017, and the violence and discrimination was that bad as a transgender woman. She had to petition New Zealand government to be granted access to live there.
Yeah, which is terrible, and that is the first sign that more work needs to be done in the UK. Don't get me wrong, like I said, we are in nowhere means the most accepting place in the world, and that does need to change, unfortunately. That we are a kind of country where we look down upon others as sort of saying, oh, well, here in the UK we have free rights for all. We don't really. We kind of have this made-up system of free rights for all. I think the
people of this country are extremely, extremely naive. Some of them. I'm not going to say all of them. Let's not do that. But in some ways, they are extremely naive because people in this country will sit there and go, and I don't mean to slate all British people because I am British, but they sit there and go, oh, that doesn't happen over here. It fucking does.
Oh, it does, 100%.
It fucking does.
Yeah.
If you sit there and say it doesn't happen in this country,
you're an idiot.
You're an idiot, and you clearly live under a fucking rock.
Yeah.
Wakey, wakey, people. It does happen in this country.
But it was interesting because the European Commission of Human Rights condemned the UK a couple of months ago on grounds that it was at serious risk of endangering its LGBTQ population with its failure to overturn specific laws. It's interesting to me that out of every other country in Europe, we were one of the ones that got condemned. I mean, Poland have been condemned, yes, but the fact that we've now joined the list with Poland, which has segregated community areas for people who are gay because they're not allowed out on the street, is a bit of a shock that we've sort of entered into that category of, oh, they're on the list. They're ones to watch because they're going backwards in their human rights. Bit shit, isn't it, really, when you think about it?
But this is what we're saying, and you're saying,
we are still progressive.
Of course we're still progressive, and we're not fear-mongering. I don't want anybody to be absolutely terrified.
You're making it out like we're sort of Russia, where it's like, not even close. We are progressive. We're just not as progressive as what we should be.
And what people think we are.
Yes, no, true, 100%. Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to turn around and just be like, oh, God, it's so great here. You might be able to speak if you're allowed. No, the fact that we can say we do this podcast.
No, but we know full well that it's better than it used to be, like, in comparison to homophobic slurs that we would get when you're younger.
Yeah.
That don't get them now.
No, walking down the street, you're not accosted.
You don't get accosted or anything like that. People don't really... Well... We are fortunate enough to not have encountered that later in life. You definitely would have encountered it when we were younger.
Yeah, definitely. And did many times, yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Because you sort of look back at those and sort of now you think to yourself, that's not good, that someone was so free to sort of turn around and say to you when you're walking down the street all sorts of slurs, all sorts of offensive words. Now we would consider that to be so terrible. Well,
it's not just that. I think if somebody said something now, everybody would just jump on him. Do you know? I don't think people are as vocal with their homophobia. I think that they are vocal with their homophobia if there isn't very many people around.
Oh,
and they
yeah,
think
definitely.
that they can get away
Online.
with it. Yeah,
Keyboard
well,
warriors.
yeah. The keyboard warriors do love to be homophobic and racist, but I think it's harder for people that are homophobic to vocally be homophobic in public places when there's a lot of people around.
Yes. So I suppose going back to the fact that you've obviously compared the UK to Russia.
I'm not comparing the UK to... I wouldn't step one foot in fucking Russia.
I don't think you'd be allowed.
No, they kill me as soon as the plane
Maybe
landed.
Moscow, but that's about it.
No,
so
I wouldn't even try.
So I suppose then I'll pose you the question then. Do you think it's possible that something like Section 28 could come back in today's world in the UK?
Not necessarily Section 28 specific. No, I don't think that could. Do I think that if power got into the wrong hands, could a different law come in? Potentially. I think it depends. I don't necessarily think it'd be anything against gay, lesbian, bisexual people. I don't think it'd be against them.
I think it's going to push onto trans community.
Fear it would be over the trans community, the non-binary community, because even though these people, and I have to tell you people, they've been around for a very long time.
Yeah, this is nothing new. Being
long
trans
time.
is
It's
nothing
not new. None of it's new. But I think, because people don't understand it, and some people fear it, that could cause a law to come into effect that shouldn't exist.
It's interesting though, because I do want to go into this topic a lot further. There is I've been spiraling down the rabbit hole, unfortunately, of Twitter, which
is never good.
I do not recommend for anybody. But yeah, I've been doing that, and there's these things of that Kelly Jean Mitchell or whatever her friggin' name is, that woman who's like, I am a woman, a born woman, or whatever the fuck it is that she says. So I really want to get into those sort of subjects, because it is rather interesting to see just what happens, or what is happening, I should say, to the trans community, and the sort of, I suppose to put it poetically, cinematic parallels that are happening with them that happened with gay, lesbian.
This is what I'm saying to you.
And
this
people
is
of different race, those that are black, those that are from all sorts of other parts of the countries. It's the same things they're saying now,
yeah, I know,
that they were saying back then.
That's what I'm saying to you. No, I don't believe Section 28 would come back, but do I believe that these idiots would put in another thing that would do something towards the trans or gender neutral community? Yeah, I do believe that. I fear that they will do that. I do fear that, and I know I don't identify as trans, and I don't identify as non-binary, but I will still defend those people. They don't,
Yeah.
My genuine fear is that they will put in something that would segregate those people from
everyone else.
Well, not even segregate. Just, I don't know. Just put something into effect that would harm them. Do you know what I mean? That could potentially harm them. And the thing is that they are already in the line of fire. And I think the worst category to look at, and I don't know if it's happening in this country because we don't get reports like they do in America. But every single day, it's not even a joke. Every single day for the last 39 days, there's been a black trans woman killed.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. And it's shocking as well, because almost never are the victim's murderer found. And when they are found, there is some very, very difficult laws in which to bypass in the world, and obviously in the UK as well. And it's disgusting that it still happens to this day. I mean, to roll off a few statistics that obviously we've been looked into.
Oh, for the UK?
Yeah, so hate crimes, for example, in the UK.
Hate crimes in the UK. So for all you people that thought that hate crimes were not a thing in this country, I'm here to tell you that they are.
Well, if you did, you're probably not actually listening to our podcast. So.
Yeah.
Something tells me these people are not listening to a sure thing.
Shall we start with the lowest one?
Sure.
So the lowest hate crime. These numbers have come from. They are from the UK, and they are 2019 to 2020. I've taken it from those dates because quarantine. Nobody was out.
And ONS verified as well, so they are from a statistical company.
Yes, I've pulled them from a statistical company. And yes, I decided to take them from pre-coronavirus because you weren't allowed to leave your house during that time.
Not that that makes it
Not that that makes
like, like so there was no crime.
The numbers just were statistically a lot fucking lower. I mean, like, minute, because...
Well, yeah, they will be.
Well, nobody was leaving the house.
Yeah,
so
there's going to be a difference.
This is why I pulled the records from 19 to 20. So that's the only one that was more valuable.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Imagine. And in 2021, there was only one. Ooh, yeah, no, it doesn't have the same effect, does it?
Okay, so the crime records were... So transgender people that were subject to hate crimes in the UK... 2,540 in 1 year.
And I would have thought it would have been more.
They don't know. So the hate crime record is actually the highest it's ever been. The highest it's ever been. And they're not quite sure whether it's because police know how to identify a hate crime better, or if it's just that they're higher because more people are actually reporting.
It's an interesting
thing. So you're saying that's... You thought that would be more. That's the highest it's ever been.
Yeah, but at the same time, the reason why I think it would be more is because there's still so many people that would be afraid to actually report
I agree. So, I do think that there's people out there that have probably been subject to a hate crime that have never reported it to the police.
It's an interesting one because all these people that turn around and say, well, we never used to have all of this. It's a stupid, that's a stupid sentence to actually make, because things like understanding and recording and all these things evolve, they change throughout time. So police are then taught how to understand or react to or to bring forward what a hate crime is. For example, with transgender people, it could have been that back in the day to have misgendered somebody would not have been considered a hate crime. It could have been merely an ideological preference. As time moves on, as laws evolve and as they adapt, then misgendering somebody
is a hate crime.
Therefore, you will see a spike in these figures. It's like with anything. Something changes and something will go up or go down, dependent on the result. It always makes me laugh whenever you see them and they go, we never used to have all of this. No, because there wasn't those laws. There wasn't these things in effect.
And there wasn't that understanding either.
No.
People didn't have that understanding or that the tolerance to understand.
As you said, so rightly so, a while ago now, what was once may not have been considered offensive by most could have well have been considered offensive by most.
They just wouldn't
didn't
know.
Report it. Yeah, exactly.
You just didn't know. Let's be honest. Spiraling off topic completely. Let's be honest. These things have always been wrong, or a crime, or could have hurt somebody's feelings or been damaging to them. The thing is that you wouldn't have known because there was no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There was no news apps in the palm of your hand. All you used to get when we were kids was a newspaper and the 10 o'clock news. Do you know what I mean? Like, and God forbid if they ever told you that there was people that were transgender or queer that were being abused or subject to a hate crime, they would never report that. The thing with social media now, and the reason that it's so prominent, is because everybody can report anything and everything.
Yeah, it's true.
Whether it's relevant or not. Even if it's a lie or not, you've got to be real careful about what you read.
There's no thought anymore that is...
There's not. These things, I can tell you now that these things have always been a thing. They've been a thing for probably 100 years, if not more. It's just that now you are aware of them because of social media, because of keyboard warriors, because of people are not that afraid anymore.
It's both a gift and a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
We're the most educated people in the world's history.
And the most stupidest people.
Yeah, I was going to say, and also the most stupid people in the world's history. So it's one of those things where it's like, what a gift to kill us all with.
So just just bear in mind, people, that when you say, this never used to be a thing, I promise you it probably was. You just weren't aware of it. Or it probably was, but somebody was too afraid to tell you or too scared to tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they could have been subject to a severe beating.
Judgment as well. Judgment from friends, judgment from family. There's so many different reasons.
More and more, the old, like I said, the more that, like what you said about the generations and stuff, and the kids now do have it slightly better than when we were kids. They're not afraid. Some of them are not afraid as much to say, I'm trans, I've been born in.
Well, yeah, and I also think it depends on the individual as well in question as to who the hate crime was directed at. I never once in my entire life have reported to the police if I've ever been called an offensive slur. And won't. And I suppose because I've gained that side. I don't know. I suppose I've gained that thicker skin. I suppose it's the
I
stiff
think it
upper lip,
depends on
really.
how far you go with hate crimes. Like, if somebody spews some sort of word at me that's offensive, I'd probably just spew something back at them.
Well, for me, it's more
But I
like you
think if
can't
it
say
was-
something I've not already used myself. Do you know what
Well,
I mean?
this is true, but I think if the hate crime is to verbally and abusively, that's different. You would report that, surely, if somebody was, like, going at you because you were gay and they were pounding your face in. Then
That's a
gonna
physical abuse.
that's
That's
gonna
not.
get
But that's
reported.
physical abuse. That's not freaking. That's not a hate crime. A hate crime is far less. You know, with that, if someone punched me in the face and called me a faggot, then yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd report them to the police. Unless it was. No, I'm not gonna say it. I was gonna say something really offensive, but no, I'm not gonna do it. But if at the same time, if someone just shouted it out their car window and carried on going, my gay ass would react very differently. I'd just be like, you know it, dun 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 dun, as I'm walking down the freaking road. It's a different story for me. There's nothing that nobody can say that is going to be at all.
Yeah, but also a
shocking.
hate crime would be saying that you've done, if somebody could report you for doing something that you haven't done because you're gay.
Oh yeah, but
That's
that
a
would
hate
get,
crime.
yeah, that's a hate crime, and that would get reported as well if someone was to make up some silly.
So if somebody said that you robbed their shop, but they're saying it because you're gay, that's a hate crime.
Oh, well, yeah, that is a hate crime. It's also illegal for them to do that. Just so you
Well, it doesn't stop people though, does it?
No, it doesn't. But it's one of those things where there is a specificity to what you would report and what you would not report. I don't think that. I mean, for me at least, anyway. I implore anybody who's the subject of any sort of abuse to report anything. But for me personally, I'm just not going to report somebody shouting abuse at me. I think it's just because I don't care enough about that individual to get them reported.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not worth me dialing the police at all. I couldn't care less. But at the same time,
I think the only time I would dial for the police if it looked like it was going to get.
if it was going to get physical, yeah, definitely, yeah. Do a lever.
Well, I'll let you call the police. I'll punch their lights out.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I will white woman call the police whilst you physically attack somebody. Hello?
They have to attack me first, though, or at least attempt.
Well, you would hope,
to
yeah,
attack
attempt,
me
yeah,
first
because then
before
you
I
can
punch
just
them
call
in
it
the face.
self-defense, exactly. Anyway, but we're not violent people.
I'd speak for yourself.
So there is some
Anyway, let's
some more statistics.
back to
Let's
those
just jump
numbers
back
of
on
hate
that.
crimes. So yes, so the transgender hate crimes was 2,540. Do I believe that there's more? Yes, I do. Then we're going to move on to disability hate crimes, 8,469.
Which is even.
What is somebody who is hate criming against somebody that is disabled?
Can you imagine?
What is wrong with
You're in
you?
a wheelchair and someone. Well, kids, but it does
Yeah,
make
but even
you...
then, I wouldn't go with kids to some extent because they are more accepting than grown ass adults.
confusing, isn't it? Who are these people? I would love to know a little bit more of the intricacies around it. Do you know what I mean?
What, of being horrible to somebody that's disabled?
No, of what they did, so that then I can.
It doesn't give you those. Do you know what? It's funny. If you look up anything in America, you can literally pull statistics and facts and figures from anywhere. If you look up anything in the UK, it's so fucking difficult. There's so much red tape that you have to get through. Yeah. Anyway, that's confusing. Religious hate crimes, 6,822.
Which is still bad. You can't really be judging somebody for what they believe.
I feel like there is more than that haven't been reported.
Well, yeah, same with a lot of things, to be honest with you. A lot of these figures are going to be lower than what I think we've...
I feel like some form of religion, hate crimes against religion go hand in hand with race.
Everything, because it's still a protected trait. So race, religion, gender, all these things go hand in hand. You know, a religion would dictate the response of somebody's gender, the response of somebody's sexuality, the response of someone's creed. It's these sorts of things which are all dictated by each other. This is the reason why hate crimes are reported on under the protected characteristics of an individual. Not, they not I'm bald, someone called me bald. That's a hate crime. That's physical appearance, and unfortunately some people are just dicks. The reality is it has to be under these protected traces: race, religion, orientation, gender.
So moving on to sexual orientation. Hate crimes against sexual orientation was 15,886. 835.
Yeah, it's about right. I can believe
it's
again,
a lot, though.
and I can believe it's more than that as well.
Oh yeah,
again,
I can believe
just
it's
not
more than that.
reported.
That's just crazy. And then obviously the one that comes in the highest is race with 76,070 reports of hate crimes against people's race.
And again, I can believe it to be more.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which is, it's one of those things where on the list of things that I'm looking at the moment in time for where discrimination lies, probably the most shocking is disability at 8,469.
I just don't understand who on
That's
earth
shocking.
is being horrible to somebody that is disabled. It's not their fault.
But does it make you
Like,
wonder
it's
if
not.
whether
Well,
or not
none of these things. Sorry, let me requote myself. None of these things are anybody's fault. Your race, your religion, your sexual orientation, if you're disabled or if you're transgender, none of these are anybody's fault. So,
well, actually, I'm going to kind of throw a spanner in the works there and be very controversial and stunning and brave. Religion is your choice.
to some people, it is a choice. To some people, it's not a choice. It is a way of life.
Made by a choice. I would struggle to turn around and say that you are 100% what you are religious-wise without that being a physical choice. You choose to follow the religion. I can't help who I'm attracted to. Do you know what I mean? I can't help my sexuality.
No, I understand that to some degree, but if you are from, let's go with heavily religious people, and it's been brought up all the way through, yes, it is a choice, but maybe for some people it's not a choice. Maybe religion is ground that deep into their family and into their culture that it isn't a choice.
It's a story and a topic for another time.
It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't believe that I can victimize against other people or say that it is a choice when it might, in some cultures, it might not be a choice. It might be so ingrained that there is no choice.
I disagree. I disagree. And
I don't know enough about different religions to say. I would feel it would be unfair for me to say I think it's a choice when I don't know enough about all of these religions to make that executive decision.
I'll tell you why I disagree. So I disagree with it because the reality is you are not born Christian. You are born you, and then you can become Christian. You choose to become Christian.
I'm not speaking about being Christian specific.
No, but most religions, no one is born as of religious divinement. That's not a thing. You are born human, and then you make your decisions about what your religion's going to be. And yes, your religion can be forced upon you 100%, but it is still a choice, in my opinion. And whilst that's controversial, what it means is I don't discriminate against anybody who is religious. In fact, if anything, I am a fan of religion in the sense that I find it fascinating. I find it immensely studyable and something that I wished I'd taken in school as an actual subject because it is so interesting and it falls.
I had it in school. I thought it was incredibly boring.
Well, yeah, but that's when you're in school. Things change when you become an adult, and believe it or not, writing a book which has subtle religious themes in it, it's quite interesting to then study that and understand more about it. But I can't sit here and say that you can't help the religion that you follow. You can. It's a choice. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't be protected. Of course it should, because you are entitled to believe what you want to believe.
I think we'll agree to disagree on this subject.
Yeah, maybe this is something that we get into in the future.
That would be a hell of a deep conversation.
This is a conversation I'd like to get into. Look, why can't this podcast?
How about we bring somebody else on and you can talk to them?
Yeah, sure. Listen, we've already had a few people that want to, so.
So can we jump back to 1885? Because I had another fun fact of 1885.
Sure, I remember it so well.
You're not funny. So according to reports that scientists in 1885, during the laws that were being changed about gross indecency between two men becoming illegal, at the same time some scientists decided to hide the natural homosexual behaviour of penguins for centuries for moral implications.
Why can't penguins just be gay?
Well, they are. Sven and Magic.
Free the penguin.
Anybody that doesn't know who Sven and Magic are, one, you need to Google them because they're cute little penguins. And, They've literally just hatched their second egg together. It's so cute.
I know.
Adorable. They're like little foster dads of the penguin world, and they just take in these abandoned eggs and they raise them as their own, and it's the cutest, purest thing I've ever seen.
homosexuality is not a unusual thing within the animal
not within the
kingdom.
animal kingdom, and why it's awful that scientists felt compelled to hide the homosexual
They
behaviour
may
of
not have
penguins.
felt compelled. It could have been a government thing. I mean, I don't want to get too tinfoil hat here, but it could have been a government thing.
It might have been. I
mean,
don't know.
They decided to not advertise the fact that women sleep with women. Sure. So why would they then not decide to hide the fact that these
Penguins
two
do
penguins,
as well.
penguins can be gay, can be lesbian. It is what it is. Also, just so we know, trans is also a thing in the animal kingdom because the seahorse changes gender.
It does change gender.
See, this is what I mean. People that
And
turn around
nobody
and-
bullies the seahorse.
No. And then all these people turn around and go, yeah, you don't see it in nature. Yeah, you do,
You do.
Barbara. It's on TV. You watch David Attenborough.
Love David Attenborough.
Can we do a podcast episode just dedicated to David Attenborough?
What, and the queerness in the ocean?
And land.
And the land.
Doesn't have to just be the ocean. Just because we only know of seahorses and penguins.
I know, I like sea animals more than I like land animals. That was the only reason I
The
went
next
for sea animals.
statement out of your mouth is, I want to be a mermaid. I'm going to come over there and beat you with a microphone.
No, definitely not. I couldn't live in the ocean. I'm just saying that my favourite animals are in the ocean. There's no way I'd live in the ocean. I get eaten by a shark or a killer whale.
Like I say, if we go
A
back...
giant octopus. I don't...
Oh my god. Like I say, if we go back far enough, all of these sorts of things that happened in history, it's been an evolution to get to where we are now. It's important, I think, for us to always remember the history and to have it documented probably better than what, we can, two idiots with two microphones. But at the same time, I do think it's one of those things where it's not widely enough taught, and I don't think it's widely enough understood. My wish is that going forward, going back to the pride thing, going back to laws, going back to all these things that we spoke about today, is that we begin to educate on where it once was to what it is now, and we get that understanding of history. And then we can move forward with what's best for the community and how it's evolved and how it's changed. Do you understand? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. I do think it should be taught, and I do think people should know the history of things, and it isn't... I mean, there's so many things that they should be teaching in schools that they don't teach anyway.
The reality is, history, the LGBTQ IA plus history is so long, it's so breadth of things that have happened in the past and where we are now. There is people like the Alan Turing, who obviously was a decoder at the time of World War II. Not that anyone knew about it at the time, because obviously he was shunned for being a gay man. There was so much history to us, to our culture, to who we are and what we've come from. And I just want that to be... I want the history. I want the stories of the old brought into today. And that's because in history we learn from our mistakes, from what's gone wrong, and we know how to do it better than last time.
I think that if I had any say on the education system in schools, it would be more diverse. Yeah. You don't need to spend an entire year on World War II. It's not fucking... You don't need to spend an entire year on any form of history. Just little bits here and there of everything, race and religion and diversity and the war and things like that. If you can cover those by all means, but don't go on for forever. Be more inclusive is basically what I'm saying, because let's be honest, history doesn't have much of an effect on our lives, but it does give us a better understanding of things that have happened in the past. And if you're not including things like race and LGBTQ plus, it means that your kids don't... Well, sorry, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but it means that the kids don't understand everything that's happened in the past. They're only getting a little snippet of this white world.
I think it just shadows what's happened. It shadows what we've come from.
It shadows other people.
Which is unfortunate.
And if you want to if you want to take history more serious, that's what you have college and university for, in my opinion. If you want to do something with that degree.
We can agree on the fact that English schools just need a giant overhaul of the education system, but, this isn't Education in Me by Kaylee and Douglas. So, So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts.
Nobody would attend our school.
No, they wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe a few people would do, but it's only because we would have absolutely nothing intelligent to ever actually say. But either way, let us know your thoughts. This is why we've got comments. Drop them down below because we'd really love to hear some of your thoughts on some of the topics that we've discussed today. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not even looking at me.
No, I was reading my notes.
Why? Podcast is finished now.
Well, now I'm sad.
Anyway, like I say, this is going to be up on all major places. It's going to be up on Spotify, YouTube.
We're still working on Apple.
We're still working on Apple. We have some problems there, but I think it's our problems and nobody else's. Also, don't forget, you can still buy us a coffee, because without coffee, this podcast
I'll die.
is not good.
Every time we do this, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to die if you don't buy me coffee.
Every single time, because it's so funny. Or you can support us on Patreon, or just listen and give us a like. All right, so that's it. We will see you again in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.